Hello, Butler 1199. My name is Dan. I'm the delegate from BH Call Intake. Once again, we have had another bargaining session. It is April 8th, and I got back just a little while ago. So, um, it was a wacky day, and we'll get into it when we get through my disclaimers. Number one, these are opinion commentary videos that I make. They are not official 1199 communications, and they are certainly not a replacement for talking to your delegate. Please talk to your delegate. Um, and yeah, so today, uh, we started off the day with a very big move. A lot of departments walked in on their managers and instructed them that the union's position is that they should not be interfering in negotiations. They do not need to go running around the units, hailing management's like wage proposal as, the greatest gift ever bestowed upon the Butler workforce. Um, we would appreciate it if they would stop. Um, it was a great showing from all of us, and there was even quite a funny incident in which several of us delegates helped join housekeeping in this endeavor, and the housekeeping manager called security on us. And so we got to have a nice chat with Russ and a few other the fine fellows at security. We thought it was quite funny. Uh, we don't think of ourselves as particularly intimidating individuals, considering we know everybody and are laughing and joking and having a good time. But I suppose that perceptions maybe are different for some managers. Um, Regardless, we went into session today where management wanted to have a presentation for us. They felt that we did not properly understand their proposal, mostly their benefits changes. So they wanted to take the time to instruct us about this because, they feel that we're children, and that we need a little bit extra lessons. Um, um, I mean, we understood pretty well what they meant when they said that they were going to, basically ruin the HSA by making you responsible for 100% of the deductible instead of one third, which you currently are, and that they would only front load half of it, right? And because you're 100%, because you're responsible for 100% of the deductible in their proposal, you would be responsible for that 50%. Right, so it'd basically be a loan from them that you pay back, but on January 1st, the other 50% you're going to have to just throw down whatever it is, like 1,500 for the family plan, or however much for the individual. And we understood this. We understood what they meant by this is that they would like everyone to stop using the HSAs. They would like to ruin it so that way people go to the HMO and the PPO plans, which they have not done as much to outright make those worse. Instead, they've set it up to open themselves up to making those worse over time, where they the increase cost to healthcare would get more and more pushed onto us. Um, and they really tried to package this as something that we could fall in love with, and I don't know where that idea came from. I don't know where the idea that ruining our healthcare benefit is something that we would like, but they certainly are convinced of it. Um, they also really hailed the getting rid of the dental high plan, just gone. They think that's they use the word streamlining. They keep using it, and um, it's I can't I can't understand quite what they understand that phrase means, streamlining, because it's like, if you were to take like a big hunk of beef and then like cut it down into like grind out just one sausage out of it and like leave all the rest of that beef, on the counter and throw it in the trash, just have that sausage. I don't know if you'd call that like streamlining. That's what they're planning on doing. Is like by cutting away benefits, we're streamlining your benefits. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I quite follow that. Uh, this is just cutting. That's not streamlining. That's just no. Um, so yeah, so they tried to package that as something nice. They also, tried to explain the 403B benefit that um and why it's they said we're not saying it's necessarily superior to the pension, but it has all these interesting things about it, and pensions are old and we don't like them, and 403Bs are great and we like them, and we all just found it very funny. The mood really lightened up about on this part because we just found it funny that their presentation, which they brought like an outside consultant or something to talk about this. Um, for all these little presentations, they had these all outside people who really just dropped some great one-liners, and I'll get into that. But yeah, so they but the funniest part about it was that the 403B is a benefit you already have. You can sign up for that if you like. You can voluntarily, enroll in that, put money into it, and it's a fine benefit. There's nothing wrong with it. You know, it's just why are you doing a presentation to explain the 403B, you know, uh, in regards to you just trying to cut the benefit off from all new employees, right? And the existential threat that that poses to our union as something that we could never accept, right? Because if right, let's say they do cut off like new if we did accept that and new employees were cut off from the pension, um, you know, so not only would we have the sort of divisional problem that would continue to grow as more new employees come in which we'd have a section of the membership that has a pension and a section of the membership that can't have the pension, and the sort of divisiveness that that would cause. But also, as time would go on, and all those employees stop paying into the pension while they're working, um, the pension becomes more and more unstable, right? It becomes the pensions would have to eventually freeze your pension, whether or not you made it to retirement. Um, and yeah, it's a way to just kill the pension forever, even for those of us who have it, eventually they would just be able to kill it. So it's a non-starter. We can't entertain that discussion. There's nothing more to say on that. It was very funny. The presenter, tried to explain that like, oh, well, a lot of pensions now, very few places have pensions anymore. And we're like, yeah, we know. That's why it's something that we like. And they're like, I don't have a pension. I've never had a pension. I'm like, do you want to work here? Like, they cracked us up. I mean, they're very out of touch. While explaining, you know, like when the lady was explaining the had them ruining the HSA, we were saying like, well, this would like really like hurt the HSA, and she said, well, if you don't go to the doctor, it's not a problem. That even Scott cringed a little on that one. It was it was quite funny to see. Yeah, it was if this wasn't before lunch and we were all getting pretty crabby from being hungry, it would have been a bit more enjoyable as just a sort of hilarious endeavor on their part. But we did end up actually causing them to walk out in the middle of their presentation. We kept kind of badgering them with questions, which okay, we weren't exactly nice about it. We weren't swearing or anything. We just kept asking questions while they were trying to give their presentation. Um, and so they huffed and puffed and they walked out. So that's number four. That is a fourth walkout on the part of management. Um, you know, and then they came back and they chided us about, behaving, um, which, once again goes to the fact that they view all of us, including all of you, as children, and they would rather not, um, talk to you. Um, something to keep in mind is that this group, Littler Mendelson, this massive law firm, right? They're used to sitting down with a union with just like 4 or 5 people on the other side of the table and them having just a few people on their side of the table. They just sort of pass the proposals back and forth until whatever. So they're really bothered by the fact that there is 34 delegates, right? I did a head count today. It was like 34. Um, and they do not like it. They think they think it's a tactic on our part. They think it's something that we aren't like that isn't an important part of our democratic structure. Because they don't believe in that. They don't believe in democracy. They don't believe in the democracy of the workplace. They don't believe that you should really have a voice. That you should just have a guy who just sort of like you know just argues with them a little bit and goes away, right? They don't think that you should have the say over what is happening in your workplace. Um, because they don't live in your reality. Said it before, I'll say it again. They don't, and they never will. Um, so yeah, so we broke for lunch. We came back, and this time, we let them know like we're taking a few hours to get our stuff together, and we did. We spent a few hours, getting ourselves on the same page, going over our proposals, making sure to assess our priorities so we're all, on the same page. Because like I said, we have 34 delegates, and unlike management, you know, uh, we work like real jobs. We have to like go back to our jobs, and it's pretty hard to get us all in a room. So we are going to use bargaining time to keep ourselves organized. Only a couple hours, and we give them a head time on that. Not something that they don't seem to be willing to do the courtesy of. Um, but then we did meet again at 4, and they handed over a couple of proposals. So they addressed cross training. They were trying to make some adjustments to the cross training MOU. Um, it the only real like substantial thing I saw in it was they were upping how many shifts you would need to be available for just to be considered to stay cross trained. Um, and then they also wanted to put more manager discretion into who's getting cross-trained, which is pretty typical for their package so far, which is just continually trying to take any sort of power away from you. Um, and then they also they counter proposed our workplace violence committee that we had proposed. We wanted a comprehensive, toothy committee to deal with the problem of increased violence um, here at Butler, right? The patient population that is, been in which violent incidents continue to go up and up, and people are getting really hurt. So they counter proposed making it a task force of the safety committee, and that it could just look at data and then pass on recommendations. We didn't find this a very substantial counter proposal. It basically guts all the power we wanted to vest into that committee. Yeah, and so that was today. Um, the you know, there's there wasn't a lot of like work that was getting done in terms of negotiating, but we got some important work done on our end of coming together and getting ourselves a bit more prepared. Um, I mean, we had our picket vote. It went very, very well. Huge turnouts, both in person and then electronically by some people who may not have been able to go in person. Um, and yeah, so we are going to be picketing on the 21st, April 21st, Monday, day after Easter. So please make some time. It should be between 12 and 6. You really got to be out there. It's, this is part of the escalation. This is part of letting them know that we're not playing around. If if you want to, if you want to make this real, we can mobilize these people, out onto the boulevard for real. This we're getting to last chance territory here. Um, and that's why we got to stay absolutely rock solid. They're going to continue to do, you know, petty stuff. They're going to send emails. They're going to try and have managers take you aside, be like, oh, I don't know, doesn't this seem, pretty inflammatory? Doesn't it seem? What is inflammatory is the absolute disrespect and disregard that you have been treated with, over not just now and in negotiations, but over the last few years. They refuse to do anything and everything they can. Um, they have continually tried to push any and all market woes onto you. They have no respect for you. They don't believe that you can form opinions for yourself. They think that your opinions are dictated to you, um, and that they're just like, oh, you can just listen to us, right? And it's time to put these people in their place. It's time to show them that we're not like anybody else, and we're certainly not going to take any of this bizarre nonsense that they're throwing at us lightly. This new law firm, it's very weird, it's shady. They have, divisions in third world countries that, who knows what they're up to. And and now they've got their slimy hands all over Care New England. And this is nonsense. These tactics are nonsense. Um, we are workers. We work real jobs, and we don't have time for this poppycock, to keep it civil for YouTube. So let's all, let's stick together. Let's lock arms and show them we're not budging, we're not breaking. So let's kick some booty, Butler.